What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be doing the 600-mile service on my 2020 Grom. I just hit 600 miles on it, so it is that time. I'm going to go over just how to take off this case here, how to clean the filters, change the oil, what to unhook, what tools I used, and what I found the best. Some of the parts I'm going to be changing, some of the gaskets, and obviously the crush washer and the screen filter. Now, you don't need any of this stuff. I hear you can use this gasket like 4 or 5 times, but all this stuff is super cheap. I think with 2 quarts of oil and all these gaskets, and I actually have a gasket that goes on the spinner filter. It's just not here yet, but I can do that in the second oil change. I think it was like 15 bucks, so that's like super cheap for an oil change. I am running 10W40. That's just what the guy gave me at the store. I later looked in the book and the oil is actually 10W30, but 10W40 will be fine. You will be fine if you use that. I will use 10W30 next time. Some of the tools that you're gonna need are some needle nose pliers. This is a short little stubby 8mm 1/4 inch ratchet. You'll need that for some tight spaces. You'll need a 10mm and 8mm. I have a long 8mm. I have a 12mm and a 17mm, which actually you are not going to need. That is extra. I have an extension and a 10mm ratchet. The 10mm is going to be for the spinner filter. Also the 10mm socket. It does spin, so you will need to hold on to one of the nuts with a wrench and crank on it with a socket. So I have the 18mm on the ratchet for the oil drain plug. So this is obviously the 600-mile service. It is my first time doing a service on this, so I think we're gonna kind of be learning together. One of the trickier bolts that I've seen on here, I don't know if you can see it up in there. I will kind of try and point to it, but is this bolt here. That bolt here is going to be very tricky. It's not a lot of room in there. That's why I have this little 1/4 inch small socket and wrench. So hopefully that will work out. And then we got your oil drain plug, which is this little guy here. And it's right in front of this little sheet of metal that comes off, this little bracket looking thing. It is not the one over here that points downwards. So just make sure you remove that one. So let me get the tripod set up here and we will begin. Okay, so first thing you're gonna wanna do is take out the oil drain plug. And the torque specifications on this, you're only supposed to torque it to, I think, 18 foot-pounds. So it shouldn't be on there too tight. And remember to torque it when you're done. So let's go ahead and remove that. There we go. I did let the bike warm up for about 5 minutes. So it should be well warm to drain the oil. If you have an exhaust, you can, like other than the stock exhaust, if you have an aftermarket exhaust, you can put some tin foil over the pipe in order for the oil to not drain onto the pipe and get it all gunky. But I think the stock exhaust, they made it so that you could just drain the oil and not have any issues. So there should be only a quart in there. Really not that much in this little motor. You can see it's quite dirty. I mean, it's, you know, it's to be expected. It's the first service, so it shouldn't be too bad. So for this, just to kind of get it all out, you're gonna want to tip the bike so it's straight up and down, and that will kind of let all the oil drain out. I know it's kind of hard to see. Sorry, I'm fumbling around with my iPhone here, but you can see it kind of still draining there. If you do get a little oil residue on your exhaust, just get some brake clean it off. It'll be fine. It's not a big deal. So after that is all done draining, we will go ahead and remove the this cover here, and we'll do that. So I'll be back. Okay, so that's mostly drained. One thing about the crush washer, I don't know if many people know about it, if it will focus. Washers actually have a side that goes up and a side that goes down. Just an interesting fact here, but this flat side here, let me see if I can focus on it. There we go. See how that edge is sharp and that edge is kind of rounded? So it's gonna go on so that the rounded edge is facing toward the bolt, so that this flat edge sits flush up against the surface of whatever you're putting the washer against. Just a little fun fact, nothing too exciting, I guess. So let's go ahead and remove this cover. I am going to just leave the drain plug out because it's still kind of dripping and you don't really need it in for this. So for the needle nose pliers, what you'll need those for is your clutch cable here. So in order to take that off, you kind of have to rock this forward, pull your clutch cable in, and it should pop right out. Sorry, I am filming on an iPhone and it is super difficult. I don't have a camera yet, so bear with me for this video. Hopefully I don't screw it up too bad like I am, but we will see. All right, so it's kind of in frame there. You can kind of see what's going on, I think. So what you're gonna do is you're just gonna just kind of push your clutch lever kind of just up like that, and this is just gonna push right out the back, and that should come right off. And so you'll need the needle nose for. Don't forget to take the dipstick out before you remove this case here, because this dipstick will hang up inside of there and you won't be able to get it out. So for these bolts around here, they are the 8mm. I don't know the torque specs on these ones, but they are not that much. I want to say probably not even 18 foot-pounds. If 18 foot-pounds maybe, but nothing more. I can see them being something like, I don't know, 14 foot-pounds. If you do this with your oil pan beneath you, try not to drop any of the bolts into there, because it will be a pain to fish them out. Get this over here so it will drain when I open it up. Right now I'm kind of just loosening all the bolts. I will show you how I'm going to go about the two trickier bolts back there with that smaller ratchet. I did take a rag. I didn't wash it because it was raining earlier. I did take a rag and just wipe around the edges of this cover just so there wasn't any dust in there or anything that could get in there. So let me set up the tripod and see if I can't show you how to get that bolt out right there and the one way under there. Okay, so for this tricky bolt right back there, I am going to use the short stubby socket, the 8mm. I'm just gonna put it behind here first, and then hopefully not drop it into the pan of oil, but see if I just go behind here with my extension first. I can then put the socket on. You could probably get it through there. In fact, I think you can, but that's all right. And then go ahead and just loosen this one. I'm actually gonna take it all the way out because it's one of the harder ones to get to. And kind of why, I don't know, might just be superstition, might not be. But why I kind of left all the bolts just loose is so that I didn't have it hanging just on one of the one bolt or two bolts. Another handy tool to have is one of these. I don't know. You can usually get them from like tool trucks. This one happens to be the Mac screwdriver. Give that guy a call if you need one. These are, I mean, they hand these out. These are like their business card, but they're just a mini flat blade with a magnet on the end. And this thing, I use this thing for everything. I should have put it in the tools when I was showing you guys, but I didn't. You just get your magnet and pull it on out. Easy as that. And you can, some guys do set these up in the order they came out. I don't think that's super necessary, but you never know, so I probably will. Let me get the tripod set up again to show you that other tricky bolt that is kind of underneath it all. And we'll show you how to get that one out. Okay, for this one, it's kind of underneath. This is the exhaust. The foot peg is right here. It is that bolt right there. It is kind of a tricky one. That's why I have this stubby quarter inch ratchet. Hoping that the bolt isn't too long. I did loosen it a little bit. I'm hoping that it's not too long and it will just come right out, but we'll see. So that was fairly easy to loosen with that small socket and ratchet. Let's go ahead and see if I can squeeze my fingers in there. Sorry if it's out of focus, stay with me. I'm just trying to get this out. Again, this is where you'll want a little magnet so that you don't drop it, but it is not necessary if you have some good handling skills, I guess. Let's see. And like I said, some guys put these on a little towel in the same order that they took them out, just so they kind of, every bolt goes in its same hole. It's almost out. There we go. Oh, guess you won't need a magnet. So that was super difficult. This one over here, this one won't be too bad. It's just need I already loosened the extension for that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and lay them on a blue paper towel. Not a big deal. You don't have to. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and take the rest of the bolts out and then I will be back. All right, so I've gone ahead and removed all of the bolts. Don't forget to take your dipstick out because that will catch in there when you try to remove this cover. And basically there'll be, I think, a tab here and a tab somewhere down here that it actually helps it align the case to the actual motor. So you'll need to make sure if this is stuck on here, don't hit it too hard with a hammer, so you don't want to bend those tabs. That would not be good. I'm just going to bang on it with my fist to see if it will just loosen up, and it should slide right out. So, yep, there we go. Put your oil pan under there. And with a little bit of finagling, this should come right out. Maybe not. It should. If you're unsure, don't force anything. Just kind of take a look at what you're doing. Make sure it's all right. So that's kind of why I got a new gasket there, because this is my first time here and I did kind of bend it up, screw it up a little bit, but that's okay. We got it off. I did just have to angle it a little bit and tap on the brake there, the brake lever, and it came right off. So that is the inside of it there. This is actually your spinner filter, which you're going to clean out. These are the 10 millimeter, so this is made to, slippery. This is made to actually spin. So that's why they call it a spinner filter. So when you take these off, that's why you need to hold on to one of these so that it doesn't spin and you can get it off. So for my first oil change, I was going to replace my oil pump with an aftermarket one that kind of helps the oil flow when you're doing wheelies and stuff. But I figured since I really don't know how to wheelie yet, it doesn't really matter. And I still have the stock sprocket on there, so that doesn't help either. This is gonna be your screen filter here at the bottom. You can just go ahead and get your needle nose pliers, reach in there, and it will just slide right out. That is pretty sweet there. Look at all that gunk. Few metal shavings, nothing too bad. Like I said, you can go ahead and clean this up if you wanted and reuse it. But I just figured, oh, that's a big chunk. I just figured that since it is my first time, I might screw something up, so I'll just change it. But yeah, look at all that gunk in there from that just 600 miles. So that's why you want to do it at 600 miles. Obviously, they recommend you do it for a reason. And that is why there. So I'm gonna get a close-up of that shaving there. Wow. So anyway, I can just set it there. I'm gonna go ahead and get set up and so we can remove this spinner filter cover and see what is under there. Okay, so let's go ahead and take this spinner filter. This is just a cover here. I'm gonna try and be careful because there is a little gasket behind this, and like I said, I don't have one here. I have one on order, but they didn't have one in stock, so I'm gonna try not to screw that up too much. So I'm gonna try to do this behind the camera as well. So like I said, this is obviously going to spin. So in order to get it off, you're gonna need to hold one of these with your wrench. I don't know how. Oh, wow, sorry about that. I just knocked the camera. I was gonna say, I don't know how tight these are, but I guess obviously they're not too tight. Let's see if I can get this one without knocking the camera here. Yeah, should be fairly easy. Just break them all loose here. This one's gonna be a little bit tricky just because they're all loose. Something you probably could do is hold the spinner and just knock the end of it real quick, just so it kind of breaks loose. I don't know. Like I said, there you go, yeah. You can just hold the last one, just hold the spinner filter. This is not gonna come out or anything. One thing you do wanna make sure is when you're working in here, make sure your gloves are clean, make sure your tools are clean, because this is where everything happens, and you don't want to get any dirt in here. So let's go ahead and just take these off real quick. Sorry, I'm working right in front of the dang tripod here because my camera situation is not that great. I could still see some oil dripping in and out of there, but it's all right. And it would help if you had like a little Milwaukee hex drive impact to get these off, because you could just hold this with your hand and go ahead and then just impact them off, and it would be pretty easy. You wouldn't need 2 wrenches. I don't know, like I said, the torque specs for these. I can't imagine these are too much. Just like the outer cover we took off there. I don't think it's too much. I can see a little bit of oil flowing out of there. Let's see what kind of gunk we have in here. So I'll just take it off like that. That's the little gasket I'm talking about. That's on there. So it's not too much junk. I'm gonna try and just ease this off here. I want to tear it because that would suck. There we go. Easy as that. And like I said, you can reuse this gasket. I'm going to, but I figured since it was so cheap, I might as well just buy one. But so let me wipe my hands off here, and I'll go ahead and show you what it looks like inside there. Maybe I'll just change my gloves real quick. Hold on. Okay, so I've got some new gloves. I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of tip this back this way to see if we can't get just a little bit of oil out of there. And oh yeah, we got a lot more oil draining everywhere. That's all right. So it will probably, I bought 2 quarts, but it will probably take a little bit more than 2 quarts, just because they say when you empty it out completely, take it completely apart, it'll take like 1.2 quarts. or something like that. So let's go ahead and look in here. Let's see if I can't drop my iPhone into the oil pan. So yeah, there, you see all that gunk in there? Some metal shavings. It's kind of just lined with this black stuff. Hopefully the iPhone is picking it up well. So you'll just want to clean all that out and get it nice and shiny in there. Basically, I think it's actually, you know, correct me down in the comments if I'm wrong, but I don't think it's actually called a spinner filter. I think it's actually called a rotary filter or something like that. I don't know. They call it something in the Honda manual, but it's not. It's actually not spinner filter. So yeah, look at all that nice gunk there. That is some thick stuff. It's just like almost like a thick sludge. So you want to go ahead and get all of that out of there, as much as you can at least. Try not to leave too much in there. You don't have to do this every oil change. This is just the 600 mile oil change service they have you do. These motors will last a long time. So basically is why it's called a spinner filter. I don't know, maybe this is too much history and not enough good content, I guess. But basically it's called a spinner filter because the oil will go in here, and this spins and actually flings all of that dirt and sludge to the sides, and it sticks to the sides, and then the oil goes out and pumps through the rest of the motor, picks up that, and whatever's left is caught in that screen filter. I'm eventually going to get the oil filter conversion kit for this because this thing weighs like, I don't know, this thing weighs a ton, like maybe, I don't know, 4 pounds maybe. Just weighs more than enough. Maybe I'll do that at the same time I get the oil pump, but I will see. You're not going to want to spray brake clean in here. That's probably not the best place to be spraying it, just because it can get in here and you want everything to stay lubed in there, I guess. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this out, and then I'll be back. Okay, so on to the main case. This is the bottom of the top of the case here where the dipstick goes in, and then you have your clutch lever here. So you're basically just gonna want to take this gasket off. In taking it off, it does rip really easy, so be careful if you are saving it. Like I said, they're dirt cheap. They're like $6, you know? So it's like, why not replace it if you're gonna do all this work? So it did rip a couple times, so I'm glad that I got a new one. After you kind of just get that off, just kind of get your rag and clean it up a little. If there is any residue from the old gasket, it's better to do this with a razor blade, but if you're very careful, just kind of scrape it off with this. Don't mar this up too much because you need a good seal on this, or you will have a leak. Alrighty, so now that we got this all cleaned up, we can go ahead and put the new gasket on. It's the big gasket that I showed you just in the beginning of the video. Let's see if we can get it out here. So if you remember, the green side went on the top here. So it's gonna go just like that. It's pretty self-explanatory. Most of these holes do line up, so there shouldn't be any problem with that. You can kind of just look in there, make sure there's no chunks, no residue, anything like that left in there that might get in your motor and hurt it. So I'm gonna go ahead and get situated and we'll throw this thing on. One thing I did want to show you, those tabs I was talking about, one of them is right here, and the other one is here. You can kind of see it there. These are just tabs that stick out that help the case line up right so that you kind of get it all on there. But let me get situated and we'll, oh, don't forget, almost forgot, your screen filter. Kind of need that. Shoot, good thing I was thinking about it. Don't forget to put your screen filter in. If you have an old screen filter that you're going to be using, go ahead and throw that in there. If you're going to be using a new one you got, go ahead and use that. So basically, I'm not real positive on how this goes in there. If you can kind of see it, it has a slight, very slight wedge shape to it. And to be honest, I don't remember which way I took it out. I think it was in like that, where the wedge goes like that and it slides in, but to be honest, I can't remember. So maybe I've got my new one here. It's got the same thing. It's just kind of a wedge shaped. I would assume that it would go in just like that, but I don't know. The hole seems to not be cut any certain way, so I'm not sure. I'm gonna go ahead and look that up. I will be back and let you guys know. Okay, we're back. I figured it out. So if you look really closely in there, you can see that it is wedge shaped, and towards the back there is the thinner part, and towards the outside here is the thicker part. So it doesn't, I don't know why I thought it went in like this somehow, but it actually goes in like this. The big side is sticking towards you and this is going into it. They have this little rubber flap on the top. Mine came out just like that, where this flap was on the top. It looks like it's upside down, but I guess that's the way it's supposed to go in, with the writing on the bottom facing down. So I don't know, I'm just gonna put it in. Kind of makes sense because I guess this acts as like a gasket and nothing can get up past these sides here. So don't forget to install your screen and do it the correct way. So just go ahead and slide it on in here, just like this. Pretty easy stuff. Make sure it's in there all the way. That looks good to me. I'm gonna go ahead and throw the spinner filter cover back on, and I will get back to you. All right, we are back. So this thing, as I said, spins. So putting these on is a little bit difficult because when you tighten this one and hold on this one's gonna loose because it's spinning the opposite way. So I just took 2 wrenches I found were the easiest. Try not to mar these up too much. However, these are probably a dime a dozen bolts. You can get them anywhere if you do screw them up. But I also put a little bit of Loctite, blue Loctite on these, because you don't want this thing coming off. It has a lot of rotational mass going around here and vibration, and you just don't want this thing coming off. So make sure you get that tight on there. I'm gonna go ahead and install my gasket first so that I don't bend it and screw it up. Putting it on, sometimes, you know, like I did taking it off, the case can be a little finicky. Oh, and I'm gonna wanna get that out of the oil there. That's great. All right, so let's go ahead and get this case on here. It doesn't look like there's too much garbage, if any garbage at all, inside this case, so we should be all right. And like I said, what I did is I just kind of tilted it in there somehow. I kind of pushed on the brake to get it past the main part that kind of makes it bind up, and I just kind of swung it on there like such. Make sure your gasket again is properly aligned. You don't want to pinch that, especially if you're reusing it and you don't have another one. So I'm gonna go ahead and just take one last look at all this. Okay, and then make sure that's what those little tabs I was talking about over here and down here, this is what they're kind of for. They help line it up. Again, you probably don't need Loctite on these nuts. They didn't come with any. They just have a torque spec, which is fine. Like I said, I don't know the torque spec. It's not too much, because when I took it off, they were super easy to take off. Again, and you can put them on in order that you took them off if you have them set out like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and just start all these. It's kind of all your brackets are kind of self-explanatory on where they go. I'm gonna spray this off a little brake clean, get a little oily. Put this other bracket on. Like I said, I am using an iPhone, so the quality is not the best, and I'm sorry. I really did try to do my best with this video, and hopefully you guys learned something. I mean, it's not over yet, but I'm just saying, hopefully I can come back and have a different camera and be able to get some better quality video, and maybe not hit the tripod so much. This is my first YouTube video of many. I will be doing a lot of Grom mods. I know there's a lot of videos out there already on the Grom, and you know, the different mods that come with it, and you know, that's great, but everyone has their own way of doing it, and you gotta do what you enjoy doing. Do what you love, right? So I'm gonna get these all these bolts put in and tightened down, and then I will be back. Okay, so after I got all the bolts tightened, all my proper brackets in place, the clutch cable is back on. Again, don't tighten these down too much. They're small. They don't need a lot of torque on them. We're gonna go ahead and add our oil here. So I just have a filter or a funnel because that makes it a lot easier. And I've got my 10W40 here. Like I said, the manual says 10W30, but 10W40 will work, and that is what I'm gonna use because I don't want to go all the way to the Honda store, and I'm just gonna change it in 1,000 miles anyway. Sorry, I didn't know my arm was blocking it there. So it says that it should take 1 quart if it wasn't taken completely apart. Now if it was taken completely apart, it says that it takes 1.2 quarts of oil. So we will see. I do have another quart that I can add in, not a big deal. Again, I am just running the Honda oil. I mean, Honda obviously has made it for their machines, so obviously it's some pretty good stuff. Maybe in the comments let me know what you guys run. Maybe there's a better oil out there that I don't know about. I have owned dirt bikes in the past, and I used Bel-Ray for a while. I know they make a pretty good oil, but I kind of went back to the Yamaha lube because I was like, well, same reason, they make a good oil and there's no reason to really change. So yeah, it looks like we have a leak somewhere, so let me see where that's coming from. Alright guys, so I got the issue fixed. The gasket underneath on that bolt that was hard to get to down in there was not pulled down enough. It was kind of folded up not folded, but it was pushed up more than it should have been. So when you replace that gasket, really make sure that you get that gasket squared away so you don't have a leakage. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. That's how to change the oil and do the first 600-mile tune-up on a 2020 Honda Grom. So stay tuned for more content, and I'll see you guys later.